I hope you're having an amazing day. My name is Colin. Today, we're going to have a look at the good and bad things that Axie Infinity brought to the crypto gaming space. Today, I'm joined once more by Kareem, former BD of Unix Gaming.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Kareem, aka Just Kiro, and it's good to be back. So,
Axie
what
Infinity. You have a lot of
Axie
thoughts, I've been
Infinity?
told.
I have a lot of thoughts. So my main thought is Axie, despite anyone's personal feelings towards Axie as a game or as a genre or as a Mavis Studios as a developer or whatever, nobody can deny that they had massive success, right?
Sure.
Right? They kickstarted more or less them plus one other game. The name escapes me right now. They kickstarted this whole play to earn Web3 gaming, craze that kind of took over in late 2021, 2020, and then 2022. But that massive success on a game like Axie, which is arguably a very simple concept, has hurt Web3 gaming, like the industry as a whole. While they have succeeded, everybody else looks at their success and wants to replicate it without realizing it's like, hey guys, they identified something in there's room here, right? There's Web3, there's like play to earn, there's like a market for this kind of stuff, and the tech is there. We're there, we're ready to start implementing, and it's brilliant. Like, nobody can deny that. But the problem is, because they did so well, everybody thought like, hey, let's just do what they did and make some money, instead of, hey, they've taken advantage of this fresh technology and did that thing. Hey, why don't we take advantage of that technology and do something along those lines, but something unique? Why don't we take advantage?
Why is it a problem if people run with the Axie Infinity, customize it, and then run with it?
Because it's like a lot of points, but or number one, everybody's trying to make the same game. Then all of a sudden, every gamer, when they hear Web3 gaming or play to earn or blockchain gaming, they immediately just think of this same game and some kind of cash grab, and like, I don't want to spend $300 on NFTs just to play a game to earn $100. That's the first image in people's minds, because
Okay.
everybody's doing the same thing and everyone's overcharging for NFTs. Like imagine paying $300 to $1,000 to play a mobile game 8 times a day. It doesn't make sense, right? And hence guilds, but that's a different topic for a different day. Also, because of their success, investors be like, okay, let's look for the next Axie. And without really realizing what made Axie so successful, they look at games that look like they can replicate Axie's success and end up investing in the wrong projects. So now everybody has a bad taste in their mouth, because everyone's looking at this, everyone's just doing Axie clones, and nothing unique is coming out, and it overshadows the truly brilliant products that are in the background, building on Web3 technology, utilizing it to create something fresh and new, something that we haven't seen before.
So if you look at innovation, yeah, it takes
Right.
time to do these things. How many petrol cars were running around between now or between
Say again, I think
after
you might cut out.
how many petrol cars between after the Second
Trolls.
World War until, let's say, 8 years ago, and now all of a sudden it's all electric? It took a while to get to that point now.
Right.
And there were a lot of shitty cars that went bankrupt and everything in between.
Lada.
And cash grabs and everything, right? Maybe.
Right.
I'm not too sure. I'm not really into cars, but
we
overall,
picked an industry that neither of us
yeah,
shit about.
is it maybe not just like the standardization of the space, where in anything, if there's such a sudden influx of money coming in, what happens?
Yeah, so standardization isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there has to be differentiation between standardization and cloning. Like, you can take Axie's success and take the model and do something unique with it, but nobody does that because it's hard, because that takes a lot of work. Instead, they just take Axie, the same formula, stick a bunch of different imagery on it, like, all right, instead of a cute puffball, it's a badass knight, but nothing is really unique about it. They haven't thought about what made Axie so successful. And a part of what made Axie successful was the timing, not just, the game itself. It was also just the right
Well,
place at the
what
right time.
wasn't Axie on the market for like a year before it got
Yeah,
like
no,
mad
yeah,
traction?
yeah, exactly. Actually, I think Axie was developed in, I want to say 2018 or 19. Like it isn't as new as everybody thinks. I'm pretty sure the first couple versions of Axie were out in 2019 or 2018. Like I could be wrong.
So the good thing, obviously, they had the first mover advantage, and they brought a
Right,
lot of big spotlight on the crypto gaming, right? That's definitely
right. They
one
did
thing.
it.
A lot of money
That's
poured
the good.
in. Let's say
Right,
95% of these games are shit, 5% are great.
right,
So they got some attention for the space in general, crypto gaming as a niche, and some individual project. They
right.
developed their own blockchain, which was quite unique, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
that was brilliant.
then they got hacked,
Despite all the
which
flaws,
wasn't, yeah.
despite all the Ronin attacks, despite
Yeah.
that, building your own bridge or building I'm not really sure the technical specification, whether it's its own chain or a bridge or whatever it is. Brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Now you've taken something that everybody knows Ethereum gas fees are kind of like ridiculous. Like they took that out of the equation and they just catapulted to the moon, and they did so many things right. And the problem with that is that everyone's looking at them and trying to do exactly what they did, but it's already been done. You can't do it again. Learn from them and do something else.
Like
everyone's
what?
so afraid to take a risk, but if you don't take a risk, you're never going to find success. You're never going to
What does success mean?
be the next Axie. Well, honestly, like I think we said it in the last video, success is subjective, whether it's financial or commercial or critical success. Whether it's the critics love it even if it doesn't sell great, or it sells great, critics hate it, or critics love it and it sells great. You know what I mean? Like,
what's the fundamental foundation of a business?
what do you mean? Make money?
Yeah, to make money.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
think that's the number one priority. So if the critics love it but it
Right.
doesn't sell, then suck my dick. Right?
Right.
Makes no sense.
Right.
And what the fuck did you build? You built something for people that
Yeah.
critique games, but nobody loves it and nobody's playing it.
Right.
So that's
Right.
kind of useless. So even with
But
these clones,
when the critics love things, when critic loves things, gamers come. Like
hopefully.
Yeah. Like if IGN gives you, a 10 out
No,
of
but
10.
you just said if the critics love it,
You're
but nobody
going.
wants to buy it, then fuck it,
It was
On
it
the
was a
other
terrible
side,
example.
let's say,
But yeah.
obviously. on the other hand, the level of success is also quite important. And that's what I
Right.
understand from these clones. Let's say you're an East Asian developer, you got like 20 people staff. What does that run you? Not that significant, less than, I would say 5-10K a month, something like this, depends on which region you are. If they make like 3.5-5 million on a game, it's a massive success. In the Western society, probably you have to make like 10-20 million at least for that to be considered
just to cover your overhead, honestly.
A starting success, right?
Yeah.
So the definition of success is quite important there.
Very subjective.
The standard was set quite high by Axie, right? Because of the momentum, because of the influx of money and the potential, and then obviously
in the middle of the bull run.
I think the meltdown brought a lot of awareness, which I think is a good thing, which means that, and that's one of the foundations of money that comes fast goes fast, right? It's just a basic principle that they spend a lot of money
I feel like that's
salvage,
just the universe, right?
Yeah, what they're trying to do, they did amazing. Probably they made a lot of money, right? But at the same time, I think a lot of money was spent on trying to slow down the downward linear trend, and at some point they just had to let it go. And market conditions and everything else. But I think actually that's a good thing to expose not the weaknesses in their game. It's normal. Like that economy was not built to scale right from the start. They tried to adjust it. It's extremely difficult to adjust an open economy. Right.
It was never sustainable, like realistically speaking.
And then what happens is the price has to come down. And then ultimately, if you get judged by gamers, they don't give a fuck about the price, but you're being judged by scholars who grind for money, would only care about the price. So then the question I have for you is, do you have a successful crypto game if a lot of people play it, or depends who's playing it?
Oh, that's a good question. See,
because if you have 200,000 scholars,
for me,
is that a
I would
success?
say Like, yeah, that's one kind of success. Like they're both success, but which one do I consider more valuable to me? Like if I made a game tomorrow, would I be happier having 200,000 scholars playing it, or would I be happier having 2,000 people totally dedicated to it? Like that's what they do for fun. I would be happier with the 2,000 people, and I'll tell you why. Because if you've got 200,000 scholars playing your game, that means that they're there for the money. And if they're there for the money, they're gonna leave for the money.
What if you have a perfect balanced economy?
Well, then you may as well just be God.
Fair
Like
enough.
if you could create a utility token that is perfectly like, and like not even the US dollar is deflationary. Like not global currencies can't
No,
even
but
be
like it's not
deflationary.
deflationary. That's like a mad term as well, because
Or
deflationary would mean an
yeah,
upward linear constant trend, which makes no sense. I will tell you
right.
this, yeah, because I have huge discussions when I review tokenomics with people. It's like, yeah, we just do buybacks and burns because then the price goes up. At some point,
Deflationary
yeah,
is just a buzzword.
you would
It
have
doesn't
to
actually
at some point your skin, which is $7, right, will become $700 because you keep pumping your token. Nobody will play your game because everything
right.
becomes unaffordable. Yeah, but then we just reduce it on the internal side. So instead of asking for 7 virtual currency, we now ask for 7,000. I'm like, that makes sense, but at some point you have to reset the internal economy because you're asking 200 million
Right.
tokens for that value, and every day you have to adjust it in real time because that price keeps fluctuating. It makes no relative sense. And that's what you see with, for example, the Illuvium Game Studio, right?
Right.
Where their token was $280. It had a lot of perceived
Value.
psychological value for starter investors, where they was like, oh, I want to own 100 Illuvium. I want to own
Right.
1 Illuvium. I don't want to own 0.1 Illuvium,
Right.
right? That's
It's
the
like
thing.
everyone's goal. I want to earn 1 Bitcoin, right?
1 Bitcoin, exactly. It's like that has nothing to do with money. It has everything to
Store of
do with
value.
like mental patterns and everything. But I think that's interesting. It has nothing to do with Axie, but just to consider what they've done. Let's bring it back to
Right.
Axie. Any
Yeah.
other remarks?
Like quite a few, but now I've kind of forgotten what we were talking about. Like we were talking about Axie. I had a point to make when you were talking about that, but now I forgot it. No, Axie did like incredible things, and the one thing, there it is, I just remembered that they did that I think is a huge benefit to Web3 gaming industry is that they showed in like before Axie, investors like I don't want to say 3 Hours Capital because we know what happened to them, but like let's say what they called 813Z or something. How am I?
A16C.
Yeah, A16Z. Yeah, it was close. Still 3 times stable. Anyway, people like A16Z would never have thought about dumping millions, if not hundreds of millions, into the gaming industry before Axie. But Axie
Yeah, that's
showed
the
them that,
awareness.
right? But then Axie showed them, hey, gaming there's big money in gaming. And then all of a sudden you got a huge influx of investors willing to put their money in gaming. Now all those investors need is a whole bunch of nerds like me to tell them what would make a game not just good but sustainable in the long term, because it's not just about tokenomics. There's so much more to it. There's balance, there's new content, there's if you want to go down the lore and storyline and expansions, and there's so much to it, so much more than the tokens. And then but the problem with the negative side of that is that Axie made everything about the token, and then like you've just taken
Yeah.
away so much of the focus that could have been like dedicated to like lore and world building, and like you could have turned Axie into a whole ass metaverse with like third person camera. I'm pretty sure they were
But do
thinking
you
about
get
doing
it?
something like
Or
that.
would you say, like, as a game company, that's a bad idea?
Like as a game company, honestly, it really depends on what their goals are. If their goals are just to like make a bunch of money, then just stick to the free to play game as a service model where you just charge people microtransactions,
No,
because
that's
that
not
is
what I asked.
90.
I asked specifically for Axie Infinity.
For Axie Infinity, what would I do with Axie Infinity?
Yeah. Would
I
you
make it. I would
solely
make a
focus on the
contract.
price, or would you do something
No,
different?
I honestly, I would just stop trying to control the price of SLP, because you're never going to be able to control it.
Okay, let me ask you this, yeah? Because you said
I
they
would
put
focus
all.
on gameplay.
You
I would
said.
focus on. I would sorry. I let me. I
I
would
said, let me
focus
ask you
on.
this. And you keep interrupting me.
Wait, no, but you asked me.
No, I'm gonna ask you. I thought
Okay,
about this
okay,
4 minutes ago, and I was like, man, that's a good example. Let me hit him with that because
all
I'm
right, hit me.
baiting you into the story. That's it.
Hit me. All right, hit me with it. Hit me with it.
Okay, you said
Brain juice.
Axie Infinity is focusing all their focus on the price, right? And the economy internally of the game around the price, not around the gameplay. Let me ask you this. You have a dog, yeah? If that dog shits out a golden egg worth $20,000 every hour, your whole life will be following around that dog and make sure that he's taken care of and everything. No?
Right. Yeah, and I'd feed him a lot. Probably, yeah. But the problem is,
Hypocrite.
if you're no, but like eventually that dog will shit so much gold that you will drop gold price globally. You know what I mean? Like
no,
the reason that gold is valuable.
It's not that deep, bro. It's not that deep.
But it's finite. It's finite. It's finite supply versus infinite supply, right?
No, but let's say you have a buyer. Okay, let's not go into the dog shitting gold too much.
Okay.
It's more about where you put your focus. If somebody is going to tell me, sit in this hotel room for, you know, the Mr. Beast kind of crap, right?
Right.
You put your focus ultimately where the delivery of the main business returns are, right?
Right.
So although you might not want to, right? I'm sure Axie had a team of like at least 50 people that worked on gameplay, right? But then, of course, the board and everything that they had, if they had a board, or the executives, they all focus on, you know, if you have 30% of the tokens in your treasury, and a token was 50 cents and it's now $250, right?
Oh, you're talking about AXS, right? Yeah.
I don't know what the token is called, but yeah, that main token. Yeah, and then you just focus on holding that value because that's tied to your valuation. They probably had like equity raise plans, buying other companies. You know, that's like an enterprise level business, billions in market cap on that token, right? So you walking out your dog, picking up golden eggs, which is actually shit covered in gold dust. It makes sense because the attention goes there. Was it because this is the easiest thing that we're doing, right? We're dickheads ultimately, but it's just a learning experience. We're arguing against somebody's case after it has happened, right?
But
and if we called it while it was happening, it's a little bit different. But so let me sum it up a little bit.
Hindsight 2020, right? Like we're looking back on it and we are seeing what went wrong. And it's easy to comment now, but at the time,
and we're only honestly, like a year and a half too late. But
but like despite everything, nobody on this planet could argue that they pioneered something massive and they opened the door.
I agree
for something else. And despite the game, you know, forget it. If you don't want to call it a game, sure, I'll call it a job because, you know, the whole purpose eventually became, you know, make SLP make money. Doesn't matter because, like for me, the best part about that
they must have
developing nations a lot. Like for like that's a whole other thing, right?
But what about this model? We went from play to earn to play to own or free
play
to play
and earn.
Play and earn, but that was Axie, right? Because they knew that model wasn't working. That's also an interesting one. So the whole line of innovation, although they stopped innovation, at the same time they pushed it.
Right. See, I think the best place to be, if we're gonna, you know, play to earn or play and earn or this move to earn, or play to own. That's where the future of Web3.
Hey, we don't give a fuck about that. We investors. You take that shit and then you take it with your gamer buddies. Play to own is cool. If it, I agree, it's cool. Yeah. I'm not hating. I am hating, but I'm just saying.
A little bit.
I'm just saying overall, what I think is the interesting component is play to own is great. Anything I don't give a fuck what they call it, as long as it makes the economy work. That's it. And the economies are so sensitive with these tokens because nobody has figured it out yet how to stabilize it. You know, you have the different nodes. You got all kinds of shit, and I don't even know all the technical components what it's for. But the most important thing is that at some point somebody will figure it out. You know, we went from 10 million supply to 100 million to 500 million to a billion, 10 billion, 100 billion tokens, right? Now we're back at 100 million tokens. 100 million seems to be the sweet spot. To not over raise in terms of
for the
like seed valuation, but at the same time, before in the previous markets, companies were no longer raising on equity, right? They went straight token because you didn't have to. Money was pouring in. I'm getting a little bit off topic, but it's quite interesting.
And there were also very little regulations at the time for tokens.
Still, kind of, but like in general, you're right. when we look at these things, they basically, nah, you fucked me up. I forgot about it. Topic for a different video, because it was relative to the market cap and extremely interesting. It's about fully diluted value, so it's a lot better. I will discuss this in a separate video. It's a lot better to build your assets, then bring a token, reach the fully diluted supply as soon as possible, because as soon as you release 3% of the supply and then 97% across 3 years, no matter how much the market pumps, your token is going to dump. Because 97% dilution in a Web2 space, it doesn't make no sense. If you go to a shareholders meeting and say, oh, we're doing new rounds, we're going to dilute your shares 97%, we'll match the value 1-to-1. It's like, where's my gain in the whole growth overall? It makes no sense.
Yeah, that's like mathematically, it's in there, like it's just it's like dividing 0 by 0. It just doesn't work.
Well, it's a little bit more complex, but yes, I would say if there's no tremendous upside for any early adopters there, but like in the curve, you know, if you see 3% TGE, you see the vesting schedule, you just wait if you want to get in. Right, it's fine. You just wait, because if you are a little bit more advanced, and then the market might be against you, everything might pump 80,000% and you're fucked. Right, but that's crypto still how it is. Circling back to Axie, they did great things. They did.
So I want to talk about what
I actually want to wrap this up, but I will let you go.
Okay, no, yeah, because there is the one thing that it's to do with the token that, like, because you're talking a lot about the governance token, and yeah, that is like the primary concern for the investors. But the problem is that it's still tied to a utility token, right? And the utility token was hyperinflationary. I think Axie's biggest mistake was focusing too much on giving the governance token too much utility in the game, when they had this utility token that they could have created a million ways to burn, and therefore it wouldn't have been as hyperinflationary, while also making it worth holding on to your AXS versus, you know, spending it, making it a part of the game. Because I feel like a governance
but that's how they pump the value of the token, in it,
by burning it, right?
No, the AXS, the governance, basically you buy it off the market to get the NFT, which means supply is being moved, and then it's moved to the treasury of the company. So that's how they make money.
Right.
And then they remove it from the supply, demand goes up, price double pumps.
Yeah, but I feel like one of the mistakes is that you're making it like the governance token, you're giving it too much you're giving it too much power or influence in the game. You know, you're influencing people in the game to use the governance token, while you have this utility token that is hyperinflation.
Yeah, I can see that. You know what I mean? It's like a component to stimulate even more overall for the gamers mode.
Right, for the gamers' perspective, they should have been focusing more on creating more incentive to burn the SLP rather than just trying to preserve the AXS price. Because at the end of the day, like, no matter what you do, a bear market.
But then again, that's gameplay, not money. Right, because ultimately, if you take
a bear market is a bear market, right? We were
in a bullish market back then. If you take the governance out of the market, supply goes down, demand stays the same, price goes up. Then you trade it for a income vehicle, which was the NFT at the time. Right. So those are all signals, right? Grinder, investment, asset, return, right? So that's the lineup why they have so many scholars, because it's a grinding setup.
It's a job. It was a job. So it was a job with pretty graphics.
They might not have gotten the attention that they would have if the token didn't pump that much. So they doubled 100%. Down on the token pumps, and according to their setup, it made sense. But I do agree that ultimately the efficiency of the game and the gameplay being affected is highly correlated with that strategy.
Because long term, like we're talking
we finally agree on something. Fuck
but because of that, it's incredible. Because a lot of what we're talking about is something that's all happened in the span of 18 months, which that is not long term. Long term, you really need to focus. Like if Axie dies, if nobody wants to play Axie tomorrow and SLP becomes worth less than a Luna C, then what's going to happen to AXS? Because there's no longer incentive. There's nothing to use AXS for.
Yeah, it will just go with 100 zeros.
It was just exactly like, and that'll happen because you've got so much SLP and it's no longer worth grinding SLP. Now you've lost all the players. So now nobody's grinding. Nobody gives a shit about the NFTs anymore. And now all of a sudden you just have a bunch of,
you know what I reckon?
Crap.
If that game dies and the same studio just says like, oh, we're redoing the economy, we call it, you know, Axie Infinity reunited, they raised 200 million and it's exactly the same.
It's gonna happen.
And they will raise 200 million on it as well.
Dude, that's what they did with Axie Origin. But yeah, with full disclosure, I only got into this in like January,
I
February,
don't
so
even
I
know they
missed the
did
early
another
part.
version. I didn't know
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, Axie Origin was a good call because they finally released it on mobile, but it was a little too like it was just too late. When Axie Origin came out, we'd already started, the bear market and Jail
No,
Quan and all
I
that.
think they will have great things coming. So
Yeah, listen, they're a good studio. There are some really like Jiho is like beyond intel, like beyond smart. The guy, he knows what he's doing. I think that I think that the last year is gonna have taught them a lot, and I hope that they see that like it's great to cater to your investors. You have to cater to your investors, but you cannot neglect your gamers. And if you're making something like this utility token, and you're trying to make a game, the reason that you can't be limiting people how many times a day that they can play, but you have to if you have this hyperinflationary token. So you need to give more incentive to burn the token. Therefore, the token kind of maintains a more reasonable price level, and people want to spend it to play the game rather than just take it out, dump it in the market, and dump the price over time, which is what happens with SLP.
good
So,
ending
yeah,
statement, Kareem. Very
that's what I
strong,
think.
as always. Everybody, the pros and cons, what they brought, what they didn't bring, and what we can learn from it. Kareem, thank you so much for being here once more.
Thanks
Everybody,
for having me.
thank you so much for watching, and we will see you.
In the next one.
Perfect.